There are a few different ways at which smooth muscle can be activated, and that differs from skeletal muscle, right? Because skeletal muscle is under voluntary control, which is controlled through motor neurons. So I'm just going to sort of draw a smooth muscle cell membrane right there, right? Very generic. And what we can have on that membrane is that we can have some membrane receptors. So we're just going to call these receptors. We can have membrane channels. And we can have a different type of channel, which is called a store channel. We'll talk about those in a minute. So, first thing that can control the smooth muscle contraction is that you can have ligands. Right? So these are like your neurotransmitters that are going to act, and they can either bind to the receptors or they can bind to ligand-gated channels. So if it binds to a receptor, it can undergo a modulatory pathway, right, which can increase IP3. Remember the IP3 DAG pathway, right? And the IP3 can act on the sarcoplasmic reticulum and cause that to release calcium, which is going to lead to, did you say muscle contraction? Because if so, you're right, muscle contraction. Okay. Your modulatory pathway, right, can come down and it can activate myosin light chain kinase on its own. And if it modulates or activates myosin light chain kinase, it's going to lead to muscle contraction. Okay? On the membrane receptor channel side, right, what a channel can do is it can act to increase calcium into the cell, and the increased calcium can lead to muscle contraction, or that increased calcium can lead to the sarcoplasmic reticulum, which will then lead to increased calcium, which then leads to, you got it, muscle contraction. Okay, so the other thing that can happen is that these store channels, right, can act as calcium channels, and what they do is when the sarcoplasmic reticulum becomes depleted of calcium, so we're going to say this is decreased calcium, right? It will activate these store channels, and those store channels will allow calcium to enter the cell, and that calcium enter the cell can lead to calcium efflux from the sarcoplasmic reticulum, or it can lead to muscle contraction. So, lots of different mechanisms at which smooth muscle can contract, many of which we talk about in the class, right? So, modulator pathways can be sort of hormonal induced. Your ligands acting on receptors can be they can be neurotransmitters, or they can be neurohormones or hormones, right? And then your channels are just sort of ligand-gated calcium channels. So, these all lead to smooth muscle contraction, though.